How do I become a trucker? How do I find the right company to work for? How do I get my CDL? Do I need any endorsements? Mother truckers, if any of these questions are bothering you or you have them on your mind, I'm here to give you a complete guide, A to Z, on how to become a trucker. So stay tuned. What's up, motor truckers? Welcome back to the Trucking Tales, brought to you by the Fittest Trucker. Today, I want to cover a topic that a lot of you keep asking me about on a daily basis, and that is how to become a trucker. I decided to make this video because instead of replying to every single one of you, there's at least 100 messages in my inbox asking the same question. I'm going to give you a full A to Z guide on how to become a trucker. So let's get into it. All right, for those of you who want to be owner-operators, I'm going to make a separate video, so this video might not be for you, but all you guys that have so many questions about how to become a trucker, this is for you. I'm going to start off by talking about requirements in order to get a CDL, how old you need to be and everything else. After that, we're going to jump how to pick a right school for your CDL. I'm going to talk a little bit about paying for it versus the free CDL schools that you see all over the place online. Moving forward, once you get your CDL, I'm going to talk about how to pick a right company to work for. By that, I mean how to look for them, what to look for in a company, pretty much how they structured, what your pay should be, because a lot of us are asking the same questions, because at the end of the day, if your pockets aren't full and you're doing this job, what's the point of it? And then last but not least, I'm going to give you some tips or tricks on what I've dealt with trucking, what I've learned, some items to always bring with you, such as this for some pre-trip inspections. And then moving forward, any questions you guys have, more than happy to answer them. All right, motor truckers, let's talk about requirements, or what do you need to obtain a CDL? First things first, you gotta be at least 18 years of age. Now, in Arizona, this is state specific, I believe. In Arizona, from 18 to 21, you can actually get your CDL, but you have to be intrastate, which means you have to drive just within the state. Once you turn age of 21, you can go nationwide, interstate. Now that leads me into a second requirement, which is going to be your medical exam. You have to go get a medical certificate from a physician who is licensed to do your CDL exam. It is fairly simple. They just look for certain diseases that might prevent you from driving this truck. But long story short, just Google it, look CDL exam or CDL licensed physician, and there's plenty just in Phoenix, Arizona, where I'm from. There's a crap ton of them in that area. So once you get those two, you need to start looking into passing your written exam. Now, you can go to school for CDL right away, which I'll cover here in a second, or you can study on your own. There's a bunch of online courses. I've done that. I honestly I cannot remember which online course I took, but it's fairly simple. And as long as you memorize a lot of questions and know the basic rules of driving, you should be able to pass the written exam without much issue. Now, that is if you want to put some work in. If you don't study, you won't pass. It's as simple as that. That leads me into endorsements. Should you get any endorsements, because most of them are based on your written exam. I didn't get any. If you want to drive multiple trailers, if you want to haul hazmat or certain other things like passengers, you should get your endorsements. Pay the extra fee. Just get it. I didn't do it. I wish I did, but it is what it is. I'm not going to go back now because my business is based on drive-ins. Third thing is, once you have your written exam, CDL school. Now, bear with me here. CDL schools, there's two types that I know of. The ones you pay yourselves and the ones that actually give you a free CDL. I'm going to talk about the ones that give you a free CDL first, which would be your major carriers, such as Swift, Night Transportation, and the reasons why they do that and things you should look for if you choose to go that route. Second route, the one I've done and the one I highly suggest you should do, is find a school on your own and pay them by yourself out of your own pocket, and I'll explain why that's beneficial as well. So first things first, most of these bigger companies want to attract drivers. Now, they offer you a free CDL school, right? Just for you to drive for them. There's multiple reasons why I believe that's a horrible idea. Let's start with the first one. You're going to sign a contract saying that you have to drive for the company for a certain amount of time. If you don't, they will tackle on fees and interest and all kinds of crazy stuff that I've seen personally in my life that make that $1,600, $2,000, $2,500 school so not worth it, because for the next year, 2, 3, whatever the contract says, you're their pretty much property. I don't want to say you're their property, because not really, but they own you. So if you want to leave, you're going to pay a lot more than you would up front. And then they control how much they pay. They control what routes you take. They control everything. So if you really cannot find a way to get $2,000 or whatever the cost of the school is nowadays, if that's the only route you have, and if you want to get into trucking, I highly suggest you find a better route. You should go that route. And then you're stuck with that company for a year or two, whatever the contract says, and then you can follow the steps I'm going to outline later in the video. But the second option, to me, the best option, I've paid out of my own pocket. There's a school in Phoenix. I'm going to link them right there. That's the picture of their website and their main thing. In a week, you pay $2,000. In a week, you pass your written exam. They teach you about a pre-trip inspection and the driving skills. It is very fast. It is very focused on you passing that exam as soon as possible. So once that's done, at least in Arizona, you have to wait a certain amount of days, 15 days, and then you go turn in your certificate that you passed, and then you get your CDL. Now, there's another thing that I forgot to mention, and that is who actually who is the person in charge of your CDL exam, your driving portion, right? So, and your pre-trip. This company is also licensed to have you pass their exam. Typically, they'll have you pass the exam or try to pass the exam with a different instructor than you actually train with. Sometimes you'll get the same one. Doesn't really matter. Point is, DMV, I feel like, is much harder and much stricter on certain things that don't really matter once you start driving compared to a company, local company that is actually licensed by the DMV to have you pass your CDL exam. Driving exam and pre-trip exam. Now, pre-trip exam is one that's mostly troublesome, and I've seen a lot of people fail just because they don't study. This school offers, once you pay your fee, they will actually allow you to go every day, no matter how many times you want, and they have a pre-trip exam scheduled. So they have a lady, at least they had a lady a couple of years back, that covers everything from A to Z, what they're looking for, what the DMV is going to ask you. Go every single day. Your course is week-long, go every week. Go there first. Driving portion of the exam, I mean, some of it is teachable, some of it is just skill. If you fail the first time, no biggie. Just keep learning what you need to learn. If you want to learn how to drive in manual, this is the time to do it, because if you don't pass your CDL exam with a manual truck, you will have a, so you're going to have, on top of those endorsements like we talked about, you will be limited to drive only an automatic truck. If you learn how to drive a manual, which is a little harder, you will not have to limit yourself to just driving a truck with automatic transmission. Highly suggest you do it. And I believe that covers everything as far as obtaining your CDL. Now let's hop into how to pick the right job, how to pick the right company, and what to look for when you're getting your job right after you got your CDL. Alrighty, Mother Trucker, so let's talk about how to pick the right company to work for. Well, considering we just talked about two different ways to get your CDL, if you chose the first way, aka a free CDL, you already picked your company. You're stuck with them no matter what, unless you want to pay a significant fee just to get out of the contract. Now, if you actually listen to this video, if you actually listen to me, even if you have to borrow money from your friends, you pay it back pretty quickly, because we're going to talk about how much money you can make. This is what you should look for in a company that's pretty much going to start your trucking career. Now, first things first, you got to realize that when getting a trucking job right off the bat, not a lot of companies will actually take a new driver just because some of them are required by insurance. For example, my insurance won't allow me to hire anyone driving a truck without a year experience. That is a semi-truck combination vehicle. Now, there's a lot of companies out there. They're bigger companies, still not Knight or Swift company, but companies with 60, 70 trucks that are mom and pops, family owned, that are allowed to do that. So I would highly suggest looking for one of those to get your trucking job with. Now, a smaller company is typically going to have more of that family feel. They'll have less dispatch people. Dispatchers are people who are finding your routes. So pretty much they look at load boards, which is where the routes and freight is posted, and they try to find the best route for you at that moment. A lot of companies will actually advertise they'll get you home weekly, blah, 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 and that's a topic for another day, or how long you should stay on the road. But depending on what you want, how much money you want to make, it's completely up to you. More times than not, at least 2 weeks on the road is going to be very significant. 4 weeks on the road, a week at home, you'll maximize your profits. I'll show the math in the later video once I talk about being an owner and why that's very beneficial. But let's go back to the company. So depending on what you're looking for, if you want to be home every weekend, go for it. If you want to be local, find a local company. But hey, rate of pay is what's going to matter. Sorry, before I go there, even if you want to work for Knight, Swift, or any of these companies, guess what? If you get your own CDL, you can negotiate what your pay is going to be with them, unlike if you use their free CDL services. Now, as far as pay, well, let's cover the equipment. Does it matter if you get a brand new truck to drive it? No. I personally could care less. This truck behind me is 1999. Granted, it's my own truck and I put a lot of time and work into it. It's pretty much brand new, in and out. But I honestly don't care. As long as the equipment's reliable and maintained well. How to check that? If you're really interested in the job, go in their lot, go in their yard and check their trucks. See what kind of conditions they're sitting in, see how many they have sitting in. Maybe they have a shop on hand, which is ideal. If not, once you interview, ask them how they maintain their truck, when they do their oil changes, and what do they do when the truck breaks down. For example, when I had 11 drivers, every time truck broke down, and it was my fault, aka truck broke down, a belt broke down, something happened, something snapped, that driver had a hotel, food paid, until the truck's fixed. Some companies do that, some can't afford it. That's fine. That is your preference. But as long as the equipment you drive is reliable, that's all I would care for. But if you want to drive brand new truck, brand new equipment, up to you. Find a company that offers that. Second is pay. As a new truck driver, most people don't understand this. Trucking, unlike most industries, once you've trained, you're good to go. Now, typically, if a company cares at all about safety, they're going to put you with an instructor for anywhere between 15 days, which is very low on my end, to 2 months. I chose a month for all my new drivers, if I would have had any, because that's how I was trained. A friend of mine, when I got into this whole mess, trained me personally for a month and a half. And I believe a month is the minimum amount of time anyone should train for to start driving a truck. But during that time, some companies might pay you, some not. I honestly don't know the good average for that, but I would say if you're getting 50 cents a mile while you're training, it's pretty good. Now, once you're done with training, once you're on your own, ready to drive, depending on if you drive solo or team, let's say you drive solo just to make it easy, I would not drive this truck under 65 cents a mile. I know a lot of companies hiring right now that are paying 70 cents a mile plus. And that plus means negotiation. When you're brand new, when you don't have any experience at all, it comes down to negotiation. Now, one thing that might prevent you from a lot of companies is your previous driving record. Have you been reckless? Do you have speeding tickets? Do you have a DUI or two? That's all going to affect on who can hire you and who can't hire you. But you got to understand that you can clean a lot of that stuff up with a good attorney. And if you have a clean driving record, even better. Now, another thing is most companies, if not all, have a mandatory entry drug test. I know a lot of drugs are getting legalized and whatnot, like marijuana, for example. I personally could care less what you do, choose to do with your life. Just know that you cannot. That's positive. Not only that you won't get a job, they have to report that positive drug test to FMSCA. And on top of that, you have to take classes to dismiss that a first time. Offenses are significant, including the ban or suspension of your CDL for up to a year or a lifetime. Be careful, guys. If you are doing any drugs, please, either stop, get some counseling. Do not drive or operate heavy equipment under any influence of any drugs, alcohol included, which alcohol isn't on that test, but this is an 80,000 pound vehicle. You can put not only your life at risk, but pretty much anyone else on that interstate. I mean, we've all seen what happened to the Colorado guy, and he wasn't even under the influence. It was just not enough experience in my eyes. But please, make sure you're clean, make sure you're drug-free before you even try to operate heavy equipment. Now, once you got your first job, right, how long you should stay there? Well, it depends what your goals are. It depends how they're treating you. For example, if you have forced dispatch, which is, let's say, your daughter or your son's birthday is coming up in a week, and I call him, hey, Joe, my son has a birthday in 2 weeks. Please make sure I'm home in that time. And when the time comes to go home, let's say you live in Arizona and you're in South Carolina, and Joe says, hey, man, I found you a great route to Georgia, and then he sends you back to Florida. You need to say no. And depending on how they treat you, if they force you to go to Florida and tell you, oh, you lose your job, I just leave. There's such a shortage and such a demand for truck drivers that you can leave and switch companies. I wouldn't suggest doing it often or just because you feel like it. But if the company isn't treating you right and you're treating them right, it's out. So I hope that covers a little bit about how to pick a company, things to look for. Now, let's jump. 65 to 70 cents a mile is great. One thing that I forgot to mention is typically, you should be making between $2,000 to $2,500 a week as far as your driving goes once you're fully on your own and once you're kind of used to everything. I say that, and I tell you should go 1099, not W-2. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an attorney. This is just advice from my personal experience. That 1099 is way better than W-2, but Each their own. I can't help you now. Now let's go right into tips and tricks on how to make your career successful, and how to maximize your time on the road. Alrighty, mother truckers, now that we covered the basics and now you started your dream job, you started your dream career, let's talk about tips and tricks, things I've learned throughout my career and things others have told me to help you out maximize your time on the road, improve yourself, improve your career, and hopefully move on to bigger, better, and greater things. So first things first, being a truck driver, health is one of the big concerns I personally have, so I'm going to jump right into it. As you can tell, the fittest trucker. So it's a known fact that truckers are obese. Why? We sit in this seat right here for majority of our day. Over 11, 12 hours we sit in this seat driving this truck. Typically once we're done, we go back to sleep. We don't really move much. And science, there's a lot of science today to prove that sedentary lifestyle, just sitting around, laying around too much, is actually bad for you. Almost as bad, if not worse, than smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. Now, science also says that truckers live 11 years less on average than general population. Why is that? Again, that's sedentary lifestyle. So I work out every single day. You don't have to go all crazy like I do. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram. You can see the type of workouts I do. But typically speaking, mother truckers, as long as you walk 30 minutes a day, there is an experiment that was done in London a while ago about double-decker buses. Conductor, the person that sells tickets, walks about 30 minutes a day. Checking tickets, selling tickets. Driver just sits. About the same age, same group of people. That's where you get 11 years from. Conductors live 11 years longer on average. On top of that, actually, I think I'm wrong. They had a 50% less chance of heart disease, diabetes, and other sedentary lifestyle-related diseases. Now, that leads me another thing is what to bring with you on the road. Clothes, for example, is a tricky one. Let's say today you're in Florida. It's 80 degrees. Tomorrow you're going to haul on to Minnesota. It's going to be 25, 30 degrees. You got to prepare the clothes for the time you're driving into. For example, now we're fall to the winter. You got to be ready. You got to have short sleeves, like I do. It's raining outside, so I had to change. And you got to have your jacket and whatnot, just in case you encounter some cold weather. Gloves are always a must, because you got to do your pre-trip. As you're going to learn, you're going to get dirty in trucking when you're doing certain things. Insulated gloves are great in the winter. Just regular leather gloves are great for everyday activities. Moving forward, that bag you saw me have, that's great for checking inflation of the tires. You'll learn about it in your pre-trip. I'm not going to bother you with that. Besides that, food. Truck stop food is junk. McDonald's, all these fast food restaurants are junk. If you eat that, you're going to gain weight, guaranteed. You're going to sacrifice your health over in this industry, which to me, sacrificing your health over anything isn't worth it. So what I do is I have a fridge. I cook every day. You don't have to go, again, as crazy as I do. I'm a health freak, so I go a little extra. You guys can literally order meal prep companies. Put it in your fridge. If you don't have a fridge, $90 at Walmart. If you don't have an inverter, we're talking about being a company driver, get your company to buy you an inverter. Put your meal prep in or cook every day. I have a little stove, I have a little grill. Takes me about 20 minutes a day to cook my meals. So it's really not that hard if you want to do it, and I highly suggest you do it because it is very beneficial to your health. Now, next thing you should really consider about bringing with you is a pet. I don't know if your company allows it or not, but if you're driving solo, it gets very lonely in these trucks. I have a cat and a dog. Cat was a stray. Funny story, I picked it up side of the road because she was alone, hopped in my truck. Story for another day, though. A pet is really great. Depends on if a company allows it or not. If not, I wouldn't say that's a deal breaker, but it definitely helps. You'll want to also buy a little vacuum, like a handheld Dyson or something, just because there's going to be some hair, but besides that, that's fine. Necessities of wipes. Wet wipes. And there's these big shower wipes. You can go dude wipes, wet wipes, whatever brand you like on Amazon. Those are great for when you're not around the shower, because sometimes you're just going to be near the shower. Therefore, those wipes come in very handy and great. Showers, while we're at that topic, are pretty clean almost anywhere on the road, depending on what company your car uses for fuel. Like, for example, a lot of my company uses Pilot and Flying J. I get free points, aka free showers with them. They're very clean for the most part. I don't actually think I've ever been in a really dirty shower. There's been some questionable ones, but as far as showering goes and personal hygiene, that is pretty common sense. It is very clean. Bring a toothbrush, toothpaste. We talked about changing clothes, food, books. Audiobooks, Audible is your best friend. You're spending the time on the road. What best way to spend that time, but educate yourself, improve your skills. You can listen to music, sure, that's great, and sometimes I do it too. Nothing wrong with that. But you guys, if you listen to Audible, you can learn a lot, not just about trucking. You can teach yourself everything I know about trucking just by listening to these books. You can also improve yourself, self-development books, business books. You can learn a lot just by listening to Audible podcasts. There's a lot of good podcasts out there that you can get better from. So, Motor Truckers, those are some basic tips and tricks that I have as far as bringing it on the road. Now, one big key, and I'm going to just end with this, is time management. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. Buy the ELD device you're going to have to track your driving and mandatory 30 minutes. So every 8 hours you drive, once you start driving, you have 30-minute mandatory break. And I'm going to explain this without just telling you what it is because it's easier. Let's say you're outside of Atlanta, right? Atlanta has a crazy rush hour between 4 and 6. So let's say I enter Atlanta at about 4:30. I won't leave Atlanta till like 6:37 because I'm going to be stuck in that traffic and I'm just going to waste my time. Now, what's a better thing to do is I see I'm going to enter Atlanta at 4:30. Right outside of Atlanta, call it 3:45, 4 o'clock. I'm going to sit down and take my 30-minute break. Or let's say 4 o'clock, 4:30, even 5 o'clock. Even if I lose an hour on my break, I will still have more time once that traffic clears up to keep driving than if I was actually stuck wasting my time in traffic. So that's one of the big keys how you can maximize your time behind the wheel. But Motor Truckers, I really hope this video was beneficial to a lot of you guys. I tried to cover a lot of material. I know it's a very long video, and I probably skipped a lot of important things because I was trying to remember them in my head. If you think of anything, please comment below. Ask me questions. I'm here to help you guys get into trucking and become the best truckers you possibly can, and also maximize your profits, because if your pockets ain't fat, why are you doing this? It's a very tough job, but it's very rewarding. So Motor Truckers, if you like what you see, please subscribe, go like, hit that like button, leave me some comments, leave me the questions you guys want to ask or things you want me to cover. Besides this, Motor Truckers, peace out.